Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Mindset Kitchen podcast with your hosts Sheyaf Hashim and my man Kareem. Hey bro, how's it going?
What's up, bro? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. And yeah, Chef, how are you, bro? How are things?
Things are good, bro. Things are going well, and I noticed that you are not in your home today, and I think where are you? What's happening?
So I decided to go on a week a solo work trip down in the countryside of Ireland. Just to get a bunch of stuff done. I watched the Bill Gates documentary, and he was talking about the whole Think Week idea. So I'm trying to do like a version of that, but minus the helicopter and minus the additional properties, and just in a hotel room here for a few nights. So yeah.
I think also referencing back to our deep work episode as well, yeah. Because in this, this is also that one of the ways that you do deep work, like you completely
lock yourself up.
Lock yourself up. So anyways, first of all, thank you guys. We got a very good response for the last episode, the art of saying no. I think many people related. Comparative to a lot of other episodes, the kind of response we got, a lot of people actually really said they're related to this, because I think this is a problem that all of us are facing. So today, me and Kareem, we want to actually discuss something that is more or less like a follow-up to that previous topic, which is, so we spoke about how to say no, in the previous episode. Me and Kareem, we discussed what are the kind of challenges usually we face or people actually face when they cannot say no. And we also gave some tips here and there, like how you can actually get good at saying no as well. So what we are actually going to be discussing today is sort of like a follow-up to that, in the sense, now we will talk about, ideally we're planning to talk about conflict avoidance today. Basically avoiding conflict. Now this is something connected to saying no, because most of the people, they don't say no fearing conflict. Like if they say no, they might actually have to have an argument or some sort of conflict. So me and Kareem are going to try and unpack this today, where we're going to, as usual, we're going to give some of our personal experiences, as well as some tips on how maybe you can be better at not avoiding conflict, maybe taking conflict, like sometimes having that conflict in the due time. We'll tell you why as well. So Kareem, first things first, bro, I want to get your thoughts, as we are unpacking this. What is your view on this? Like, are you somebody personally who's been affected by this? Like, you yourself, or when people don't, like, for example, they evade a discussion or evade a conflict. There is an issue, but they don't speak about it. This is what it means. Have you had some experience with this? What is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny that we're talking about this topic, because I used to have I have very strong and polar views on this topic, man. Like back when I was in school, man, like I was always looking for conflict, or I was always reacting to conflict. When I was like in my teenage years, like late teen years, whether it was like verbal conflict, or sometimes like physical conflict, but I would basically like seek the conflict. I felt like it was my job to do that, and I think you've had some similar experiences as well. I know you were telling me about it, but man, I think what happened, and that's why I was very interested to unpack the topic today, because even I don't know what the conclusion will be. I'm actually now at the polar opposite, where I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually, in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases, I'm trying to avoid conflict as much as I can. And I make sure that if I'm going to be going into quote unquote conflict, that it's something that, when people say pick your battles, or, you're really deciding what is worth, having a conversation about, or really having, some form of an argument about, like, I really want to make sure that it's something that's worth it, because when you've been to the end of something, and you've really seen the impact of having like a life like full of conflicts, you can already start to understand better, like, why conflicts usually happen, Many times people want the same thing, but they just have different ways of expressing it. You know, and ultimately, like, because you have this visibility, because you've been through so much conflict, you have this visibility of like, okay, I can already see 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. I already know what we're gonna fight about. So let me just, and I know that it's going to be such a silly reason at the end of the day. So provided it's a silly topic, I'm going to avoid the whole thing. And if the conflict comes, I'm going to avoid that conflict, because I can already see after 5
where
or
it's
6
going.
steps. What's that?
I mean, you can get a sense of where it's actually going to go.
Exactly. But what are your thoughts on it?
You know, this is going to be a very interesting episode and a very interesting discussion. I can already see. Yeah. Because, and I can see there is some influence of the latest book that you're also, me and Kareem, we are reading a book. We'll not talk about it because we want to do an episode about it. Okay. It's a very interesting book. But coming back to the point of, you know, Kareem, the conflict that I'm talking about over here, because what you told me about avoiding conflict, and, you know, specifically, you know, we discussed this before as well, like how back in the days, you know, when you're in school, okay, that is the kind of conflict that when you are younger and, you know, you have a very less understanding of things, you just jump into everything. Yeah. Exactly. That is definitely something, you know, which I think you've done a very good job at, you know, minimizing that, because this meaningless conflict is completely useless at times. Like, you know, I still remember I've had very similar experiences where there are situations where I would avoid that conflict and people will be like, why didn't you do anything about it? But I used to say, you know what, there are some times you need to use your mind than your strength, you know. Now this is one scenario, yeah. But what the kind of conflict that I'm talking about is, let me give you a very live example. Okay, live example in the sense, you are in a group, or you are in a group of friends, or you are in a group of family members, yeah. And you constantly see one person actually behaving in a particular way, or you actually see them saying a particular thing, like, you know, basically keep doing something that is actually causing you harm or discomfort, or you can actually see it is causing other people discomfort or harm. Okay, this is the most easy, relatable example I feel, because, you know, many people actually have this. Now, this is at your home or amongst your friends. Now, let's go to the workplace. At the workplace also, you can actually see, just imagine if you are the boss, okay, you manage a team, or you are part of a team where you can see one person or another person is actually doing something where, you know, like earlier, like you said, Kareem, you know, 3-4 steps if you have a conflict where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay. But similarly, just imagine this situation where, you know, like if a red flag is not raised at this point, or if somebody does not stop this person right now, okay? And specifically when you are feeling very uncomfortable, or there is a lot of discomfort, you know, you're not comfortable with the situation, you're not comfortable with what this person is saying, what this person is actually doing. Now, this is the conflict avoidance I'm actually talking. In the real scenario, if you're going to take this conflict head on, is you actually going and addressing this issue.
Yeah.
Okay, where you're saying, you know what?
And that's what I wanted to say, that, like, exactly what you're saying, Sheyaf, that, like, you know, today is really about understanding how to differentiate between the ones worth having and the ones not having, because on the one hand, you cannot go into life like doing all out, you know, like conflicts all the time.
Exactly.
Oh, and you cannot be super passive either, because then you have no opinion on anything, you know.
Because you know the reason why like I you know when somebody like requested for this topic, like I was all in, is because I am someone, I have actually suffered not because I did not get in, like I avoided conflict. I'm somebody who's had a lot of challenges because I'm all up for conflicts. In the sense, hold that thought, like in the sense that, you know, if there is an issue, or if I feel there is an issue, I want it solved ASAP. In the sense that I want to go back home, I want to have a peaceful sleep at that time, like at that night.
And if it means conflict, then so be it.
Yeah. So, but now this is where the problem actually comes. Yeah. Majority of the people, like many people, for example, who avoid this, like they avoid this person, or you know, they avoid this situation where you can actually see, you know what, this is going to lead to something bigger. Okay. And this is a very common expression that we say, you know, like right now it's a very small wave, like it's a splash, then it's a wave, then one fine day it becomes a tsunami, bro. Okay. Yeah. So it's very easy to control the splash. It's slightly easy to surf on the wave. But tsunami, there is no way, you cannot do anything. So where I'm coming from is when you see the splash or the wave, you have to get involved or address this. Now, this involves, talking about it. And see, conflict does not always mean argument or a fight. Okay. Now, I'll tell you the flip side, why I think this is something that needs to be discussed. A lot of people now, somebody like me, if there is in a room, for example, there is Kareem, there is Sheyaf, there is XYZ, 3 other people. Kareem and Sheyaf, for example, if Sheyaf has an issue with Kareem, I like if I have an issue with you, bro, you will hear it from me. Like, this. Like, I will tell you, bro, these XYZ things are actually bothering me.
You'll be direct. Yeah,
I'm direct. I'll tell you, how do we sort this out? Now, it's not an argument. It's not a fight. But what happened what will happen that I've been having this issue with you or a discomfort with you and I keep it bottled up. Now, Kareem does not know in his face, like he's completely oblivious. Yeah. And in reality, okay, you are saving some effort or an argument now. But what you're actually doing is it's going to be explode in a way that it's going to be bad for everybody involved. Okay. Yeah. Now, what I'm actually saying is if I don't address this now, Kareem is completely fine. But what is happening is I'm bottling up all this emotion because I'm uncomfortable. And just because I cannot, I'm scared of conflict or I want to avoid conflict, I keep, saying, you know what, I will not discuss about this. I will not speak about this. I'll not speak about this. And Kareem, he has no clue about it. And one fine day, it's completely going to just come out.
And for me, it'll be like, oh, like this came out of nowhere. Yeah.
And Kareem will be like, where did this come from? Like, me and Sheyaf, we've been speaking for 6 months, 10 months. I never knew he thought these things. And this is like a disservice or you're not being fair to that other person as well. Honestly saying, see, everybody makes mistakes. Kareem, we know this. Like, I know a lot of things. I always appreciate people. See, I also believe like in my nature, in my personality, there are a lot of things that needs fixing. Okay, like everybody else, there are a lot of things that needs to be relooked at. The only reason I've actually gotten better is when people actually come and tell me about it. Yeah. Now,
otherwise, how will you know?
Exactly. Yeah. How will I know? And with my personality, like many people are actually with me, conflict avoidance from the other party is very high, because they think because I'm very aggressive, they think when they actually come to me, I'm actually going to eat them alive, or I'm going to like push them off the balcony or something. Which in cases I have done, like I've not pushed people off balcony, but my response have been at times, But I am really, really working on this to grow out of it. But coming back to this example of me and Kareem, okay, so thankfully we don't have any such things that we clear it in timely manner. But if it was not the case, the person who's actually getting affected is me. Because I was just going to say about this research and Kareem's like, let's talk about this on the podcast. There was this research which was actually done in the US where they actually took this research was about bottling up emotions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not expressing how you actually feel, and specifically anger and disagreement. And they actually saw that from 1996 to 2000 or something like 8 to 10 years or 12 years, they started following some subjects, and the people who actually bottled up their all these emotions, they had a higher chance of having cardiovascular issues.
Wow, okay, I'm not surprised.
And yeah, exactly, because if you think about it, it's directly connected. Because when you are stressed, when you have a lot of stuff bottling up inside you, your veins, your blood, like your pressure goes up. A lot of things are happening, and 111 people had died due to cardiovascular issues. 34 died of cancer. Okay,
it's like that pressure. It's like the what do they call the pressure pot?
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah. See this exactly. So this podcast is not about mental health, or we are not a medical podcast. I'm just sharing the research. But I remember somebody telling me long back. Okay, I think maybe 20 years back. There is this Greek medicine. Okay, it is very much similar to herbal medicine. So this Greek medical person used to tell me this: if you want to ruin yourself, fear, anxiety, and anger. If you keep them all inside, like you become old faster. Your body.
And just on that, if people are interested in the anxiety part, they should listen to The Upside of Stress. Go back and listen to that episode.
Definitely. That is the last episode, by the way, which went up. Art of No was before that. Yeah, definitely. You can change that whole thing around. So coming back to this point, so the biggest issue or takeaway, the way I can actually see it is when you avoid conflict, when you don't address, the person who you are having an issue with is not the one who's actually getting any, like he's not affected. He's completely oblivious. Kareem, the way I look at it, the person who actually takes the most harm from it is the person who's bottling up all this emotion.
100%.
But tell me something, bro. Why do you think people avoid this? Like now you were telling about why you avoid it, I know. But why do you think generally a person would actually not address this? Or they don't want to get into an argument.
I think it's for two main reasons, bro. Like for example, the first one, for example, would be that they already know what's gonna happen because they understand the other person very well. And in this case, it might be someone that they've already dealt with, or it might even be a false presumption, and they think they know. It's like, for me, it's like, let's use the example of you and me as a fictitious example. Like, let's say I don't want to bring something up to you because I know you're gonna overreact, and I don't even want to go through it. It's not even that big of an issue. So I'll add it, and then another situation, I'll add that too, and add that too, and add that too, and it will end up being this tsunami that you were talking about. That's the first reason, I think, which is people don't think that the other person is going to handle it well, and they are let's say peaceful people. They don't even want to go through this, so they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna take the highway and just avoid this whole thing completely. It's not even that much worth it. The second reason would be internal, that they themselves, their personality type is one that's confrontational. So it's like I don't want to trouble people around me. I'll only do it if I really have to. I do that. Like that's me. Sometimes I'm extremely confrontational, like Sparta confrontational. And many times, I'd say most times, I don't want to trouble people, and I don't want to confront something, because, and this is something that took me a long time to do. It's very hard. It's hard for me to do this because it takes a lot of level of like discipline or self-control for me to not confront, if that makes sense. Or to say it another way, the easiest thing for me to do would be to confront everything and everyone. But I know that I'm not gonna win, right? If it's me against the world or whatever, it's just it's not scalable, it's not sustainable. And so in your mind, you're like, you know what, let me pick my battles, let me only focus on the things that are extremely important. Let's say if it's such a critical thing, let's say in business or in work or even in personal life, like in this case, I'm going to make the case to take a stand and have a conversation about this. And I try my best to like approach it from like an 80-20 perspective, where like 20% of it is the stuff that's worth it. But what about you? Like, what's your take on balancing the two?
I think one of the biggest now this is something, even the book that I was actually reading, we both are reading, and even from personal experience, even what some of the experts, they actually say about this is, when you go down this path of conflict avoidance, like let's rename it now, like basically not addressing issues, okay, between yourself or in a relationship or in a working relationship, what happens is, in time, you start getting detached to that person who you are having this issue with, because sometimes, right, if I'll continue about this detachment. What happens is, because you're not addressing the issue, and that person is also not addressing the issue, you start having this distance among these people, because you are, like I said earlier, you are uncomfortable. You are not okay with what this person or this situation is doing or saying or behaving. And what happens is, because it is not resolved or it's not addressed, so what actually happens is, apparently that relationship completely you distance yourself trying to save. But on the flip side, just think about this. If you address it, maybe all you need to have was one discussion, and the other person just understood. You know what? Oh, it's like me telling you, Kareem, you know what, bro, I think, this is some kind of challenge. But if I actually thought about picking my battles, like I could have easily thought, you know what is the point of talking to Kareem right now? he's not involved in my life to that level. Okay, he's not. So this is why. This is how you pick. So if it's some random person, like for me, if I'm walking down the road when I'm actually driving my car, 10 out of, like say, 8 out of 10, twice I go to my nature, I become very rash. But these days, 10 out of 8 times, I will just have a laugh and I will just imagine this guy's having a bad day, because I'll not pick a fight when somebody cuts me. Because this is the situation where I know, you know what, I need to choose my battles. This is not worth having this conflict. But where I will, no matter who tells me, where I will not budge is somebody I'm working with, somebody that I care for, or somebody who is, you know, if it could be a relationship that I'm having, it could be a friend I'm having, it could be a co-worker, and anybody who's had some sort of dealings with me, I will not care. Because for me, I believe, and in my 10 to 15 years, the relationships that have lasted really long, right, are the relationships maybe many of the time I've actually told them, okay, conflict avoidance, getting into conflict does not mean fighting with them. It could be just speaking your mind to them, unbottling that emotion that you actually have. So what happens is, even though the other person cannot accept it, but they know what is your approach, what is your view on this point. And I've seen, like, I've had relationships with people, for example, where because of this conflict or because of me telling exactly how I feel, it suddenly just dropped off. But then there is a period where things heal.
Dropped off, like there's no more relationship?
Yeah, as in the relationship completely subsided. Like if it was like every day we used to speak, it became less. But there is a healing period, But after the healing period, the relationship became even stronger.
There you go. Because now it's become a lot more. Yeah, I think it's I like where you're going with this, because it's almost like a way of it's a form of honesty. If I have a problem Kareem. With someone and I don't tell them, then this is I'm being dishonest in a way. Is that
so like I was saying, it's like a disservice that you're doing to the person or a group of people. Like literally, it's okay, dishonest. Maybe you're a very nice person, but you're not doing justice to that kind of relationship that you are actually in. But
let me say something about that. So I think I completely agree, by the way, and I think the key point for me here is like figuring out how we can identify the things that are like benign or not. Like sometimes you have an issue with someone. I'll give you an example. Somebody, when you talk to them, they talk too much. Okay, I've been told I talk too much.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so this is let's call this a benign like problem. Like, is it an issue? Sure. If you let's say you talk to somebody all the time, and okay, perfect example. One of my good friends. Okay, I know this guy for more than 10 years. Okay. This guy talks a lot. If he wanted to write a novel, it'll be no problem. It'll be done in a weekend. Okay. Is it a problem? I see. It goes back to the definition of like what is it like? At what stage does it become a problem or an issue? But for the sake of argument, let's say this is a problem, but it's not worth having a conversation about it, and you're not doing a disservice, because if you talk about it, it could be like if I talk about it with that person, they could be like, oh, I had no idea, I think I talk fine, and then it gets awkward to talk about it, whatever, and then maybe we go through that dip period. But then, as you said, it you might come back stronger from it, or you might just come back to square zero or square one. But because that person, sometimes it's just who they are. If you tell me, Kareem, you talk too much, and I'm like, sorry man, I'm gonna make an effort. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't talk for a while, and then Kareem, we go back to normal, and I'm still talking a lot because that's who I am. Do you know what I mean?
But Kareem, don't you actually think, like you said, it's not like a disservice, okay? But number one, that friend of yours, if you never told him this, he does not know, okay? And
but
definitely,
it's not a big issue.
It's not a big issue.
If
but
it was
don't
a big
you think,
issue, then go ahead.
But what my point is, it's not a big issue. But the issue is if it is making you uncomfortable.
But that's the thing. You should choose. You should never give anyone the ability to make you feel upset or uncomfortable or whatever, right?
I don't know, bro. Honestly, see, this is the we are in Mindset Kitchen podcast, bro. That is the mindset, definitely. But when you personally, bro, the only thing that I cannot control, or I'm like literally, I can't say I cannot control because I've come a lot far, which I'm currently struggling with is one of the things is this. Like when I actually see something which is really unacceptable, okay, or something that I don't agree with, or something which is, it might not be diverted toward me, for example.
Yeah.
It will be something that is not fair that is happening to somebody else. Okay. I cannot, I cannot leave it.
Can't
let
be
it
quiet
be.
about it. Yeah.
I cannot be quiet about it because I honestly know, because, and this is some ways I get into trouble a lot is because the person who is avoiding the conflict, I know how much this person is actually suffering from this, because this is where I'm pulling my personal experience. Like I said, I don't have this problem of not addressing things. I address everything in any situation. Anybody who knows me also, and you know me enough as well, Kareem, I bring things up when what is in my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
But when I actually see people who are actually, and this research that I actually saw really, like, it bothers me. I'm scared for them. I'm concerned about them. Like, they are 35-year-old
So
people.
this is about two external people, for example, nothing to do with you.
Yeah, nothing to do with me. And I see a situation where, and if I have the authority or if I have the capacity to actually speak about it, I will definitely, tell at least that person, you know what, you need to address this. And there is a concept called stonewalling. Yeah.
It's called what?
Yeah, it's called stonewalling. Okay, stonewalling is basically quite famous in counseling. Yeah, basically where I think what it actually means is people, basically you become like a stone wall. Like you're not at all responsive. Okay, something around those lines. So what happens is anything happens, right? So this is when in counseling, or any sort of situation where the person is not all responsive. So this is what people actually do. They are still in discomfort, but they are not going to make a change. So anyways, so coming back to the point, Kareem, so it's a very interesting, like I said, it's a very interesting, because I think where you're coming from also, bro, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Because I kind of understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and let me just add something to what you were saying, because I really like where you went with it. Like, I think we covered like two very interesting, like advanced points, which is number one, sometimes you can have a conflict with somebody, but you realize it's just part of their personality. So so you cannot course correct.
Yeah.
For example, there are people in my life who are way too sensitive. Okay.
Yeah.
And I keep talking about, and they're very close to me, and I keep talking to them about it. And even though logic, again, this is related to the book we're going to be talking about soon, but it's not about what you say, it's about what they choose to listen to.
Exactly.
Right? It's a filter.
Don't make me quote that sentence. I'm going to say
no problem. No. but so in that case, you're having a conflict with yourself. Like, you already know this person's type, right? And so that's one thing. And then the other thing is what you were talking about as well, which is, why is this? Is it something that we can control ourselves in terms of again, but everything goes back to obstacles the way. If you guys didn't check it out, it's one of our first episodes. But when you observe an event happening, before you cast judgment on it, good or bad, just look at it objectively. One way you just look at the event taking place. What if this experience between two people, now I don't know the details of the story you're talking about, but let's say between those two people, what if this happened for a reason and this will help them develop, I don't know, tougher skin, or this will help them learn an important lesson that they'll never forget. This is, of course, one of 100 ways that it could be interpreted, but the idea is that, let's use a simpler example. Like, I can control if something will bother me or not, and therefore be a reason to have a conflict or not. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, honestly saying, I agree with the thing of, you cannot course correct, you cannot change somebody, okay? That is the first example. But the second example, right, like you said, okay, we can look at it from an angle that what if this person is, this might benefit them. But here, like, I just want to reiterate, most of the time it is not two people, yeah? It is one person who's actually doing the whole avoiding thing, who's actually avoiding. And as research suggests, and like personal experience suggests, for me personally at least, anybody who actually does not address an issue, and this is applicable workplace, for example, when you're married or you're in a relationship, when you have kids. So the best example of kids is, now my daughter is going to be 5. Now, there are things that I notice when she's 2.5, at 3, 3.5, at 4. And I have this constant discussion with my parents. Like, my mom will say, she's too young, for you to, tell her what, don't do this, don't do that. And surprisingly, every book I've read about parenting, and I've read a lot of books about parenting, and I follow a lot of specialists, okay? Yes, they also tell you these things, but they also say there are particular areas in your life, especially in your childhood, where you can do some of course corrections. For example, so again, this is a context that I can actually avoid getting involved or avoid making a comment. And sometimes it's not something major. And when you're talking about parenting and having kids, it's not just about you talking about this. It's about you discussing this with your wife, with your partner, whoever they are. And I don't even want to go to relationships, because the area where the most of the harm and hit happens is in relationships. Okay, you can choose your battles. You leave all the nitty-gritty stuff, like who gets the milk or who is supposed to do this stuff. But there are a lot of bigger issues that people avoid, just out of the fear that this will create a bigger argument. And today I don't have the space for it. I'm already having a long day. But just imagine if you could just speak about that, like something that you were really upset about that day. If you just had that discussion, maybe yes, maybe again, depending on the angle that you come. And this is what I'm working on right now is, I have not decided to let go of the conflict or addressing it. What I'm working on is, what is the best way I can actually address this thing? Like before, it's going to be like, that expression, one shot, two pieces. Okay.
What does that mean?
It's an expression in my language. Like, you shoot one bullet, like it's just one swipe and two pieces just come. Like that is it. Like that's cut and dry. Okay. There is nothing more to it.
Okay. Yeah.
But now it's more or less, making like feeling the situation, understanding, but still addressing it. Because end of the day,
I think as well, like it's just a matter of, and this is going to be different for you, for me, for other people, but everyone should. It's almost like in Dubai, you guys, I think we have it in Dublin as well. That shop I think it's in Dubai Mall. It's called Build a Bear Workshop. Do you know what I'm talking about? So everyone has to build their own bear or their own set of filters, where it's like an interview. Like
100%.
If it goes through filters 1, 2, and 3, then I'm going to talk about it. However, it went through filter 1, yes. Filter 2, yes. Filter 3, you know what? Not really. Okay, save yourself the peace of mind. Live a peaceful life and don't engage in that. But back in the day, like I speak for myself, I had no filter. Straight. You just look at me, I'm like, what? So it's important to have these filters, I think. And everyone has to decide what these filters are. And if it involves other people, and you're just trying to do the right thing and help one person who is in a tough situation or what have you, what I would say in this case is, rather than giving them the fish or going to get the fish from the other guy for them, teach them to fish and teach them to teach them what we were just talking about. Send them this episode.
I think that is. So I just want to reframe the whole discussion. Yeah, like basically just the summarize. So again, let's forget about the word conflict. Is what we are discussing mainly, or what I was trying to convey mainly is. It's about disagreeing does not mean that you have to fight with somebody. Okay, it's not about blaming. It's not about right or wrong in a given situation sometimes. Also conflict resolution or getting into a conflict or addressing something, it also means communicating, when you feel angry or frustrated. Okay, this is what it all means. Forget the word conflict. It could you could call it intervention, you could call it addressing, you could call it whatever. I know it's also about debate, making sure that if something is bothering you, okay, that you don't you make sure it does not happen in the future. How can you make sure that's, but like Kareem's valid point over there was, you select which are the things, like something small as a friend talking, somebody you're not meeting every day, or it does not bother you, that's fine. But if there is something that you're putting up with every single day that's bothering you, and it actually is getting to you, now it depends, exactly like Kareem said, it depends on people to people. Like things that bother me, I just address them straight away. And
I have to say, I just have to say that, like in closing as well, Sheyaf, that like where you can, where I speak for myself, and maybe other people would agree for this, but like where we can, we really should avoid it. Unless there's a reason for us to engage based on the filters, in which case it's actually healthy to confront it because it's something that's probably tied directly to your to your values in that regard.
And I think, like Kareem is saying, the filters could be very simple. The filters is if for example, you are in a situation like this, right? The filter is, for example, being prepared before having this discussion. Don't just go head on into it. Think about it. Write things down. What are the things that are bothering you? And sometimes
why does it bother you? Does it have a material impact on you, or is it just like a small like fly or something?
And also see, Kareem, for some people, or personally, and people I know, some of the guys, if it's affecting you, bothering you, will really know it's bothering you, because you are going to have, like, it's going to cause you stress and anxiety.
Yes,
literally.
yes.
And you're going to have
the bad
issues.
Stress.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of problems. Like you're going to lose some sleep over it maybe, and your mind is not going to be at place, so things like this. So like Kareem said, the filters are basically, which is a very good idea. One is pick the issue that you want to address, and before you address, have a plan. Don't just go head on. Think from that person's like, if you know this person well and enough, think about them, how they're going to perceive this, how are they going to react to this, and have everything written down in a way that so when you actually have this discussion, you are well prepared and clearly define what you want to resolve. Like, I have done this mistake where I many times where I actually go to address something like this, and definitely generally majority of the people are not open to such discussions, or they are not, like, they'll not be happy about listening to something which is not in favor of them. So I went to 3 points. I just want to address these 3 points. But what happens is, when the discussion starts, when I start saying something, the person comes back at me with something. The whole discussion goes sideways, and it becomes like a...
Which was not even the point of it,
Yeah, it becomes... So this is a very big risk in it. So big tip, which I personally helped me, is I write it down, I email, I send voice notes, I send long messages on WhatsApp, even though I'm not a big fan of them myself. So at least the other person can sit and listen to it. Where you don't have to engage directly. So writing an email really, really helps. Look, for me, I think I can express myself better in writing than speaking. So whenever I feel there is a risk of some sort of argument or a fight, I write it down. And in Kareem's world, like, you can make a video of it as well. I never thought about it, but you can actually make a video and you can send it. What? Hi, Kareem, bro, I think this is something that's been bothering me. And actually, like,
and I mean, on that note as well, like, I try and challenge myself. I try and say, what, proof that this is an issue. And then I would say, I'll try and figure out, like, how can I write it down objectively? And then how can I find an example? Let's say I have 3 points to bring. How can I bring these points objectively, as opposed to saying, Sheyaf, you didn't do this because you are lazy and blah, blah. I say, the following task was not complete, probably due to reasons A, B, and C. Here's an example of this. And then to do this for like 3 different points. So you try, because when you're objective, the other person, can see it objectively as well. But if I say you did, and I used to be the person who, and I'm trying to get better at this, but by accidentally, like, blaming others, like, you did this and you, as opposed to saying, this is the situation, this is the outcome, this is the impact of the situation, these are the different ways that we can solve it, how else can we solve it, like, what are your thoughts? And kind of I think I forgot the book that talks about this, but like, it's not as if me and you are on this different sides of the table. How can we both sit on the same side of the table and put the conflict on the other side, and both of us work together? The conflict is not related to the person. It's not the person equals the conflict, but rather the conflict is here, and we're sitting over here, and we're tackling the conflict together.
Perfect, bro. I think today's episode, for me personally, I think it was very interesting. I think there was different perspectives, and so see, there is no specific discussion or direction that me or Kareem want to emphasize on. I think both of us gave our view. And
100%.
I think this was more candid. And see, now the people who are listening, it's completely up to you. Both of the sides are there. We've discussed multiple point of views. So if you are somebody who's getting bothered, you can look at it. If you are somebody who's not getting bothered by things, perfectly fine. So, but let us know what you think of this whole discussion today, of the episode. And definitely, guys, like always, make sure to subscribe to, if you're listening on audio, to the channels. Yeah, I can see a lot of people from the US. The third country that, which gives us the most traffic after UAE, India, is the US.
Nice.
Who you guys are, thank you. We would like to hear from you. We've never heard anything from you guys, but there is a sizable amount of traffic that comes on audio podcast from the US. Yeah. So the Dubai and Indian guys, khalas, thank you guys. So everybody else, leave a comment. We've just started rolling out some content on our Instagram page. All this while is just posting episodes and some stuff. So do follow us on Instagram as well, to get all the updates. And on YouTube, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you don't like something, let us know. We like to address it immediately and solve it. And if there are any other topics that you want us to cover, we'll be more than happy. So that's all, guys, from us for this week. We will see you in the next one. Take care and have a lovely week. Bye-bye, guys.